me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Andrew Zimmel, your host as always. Sam Ouhaj breaking down the AFC West draft predictions. What can we expect? What does his big board look like? I really like the Chiefs' chances to become the best dynasty of this new decade. What do they need to do in the draft to keep it rolling? And, of course, who are the Chargers going to pick, or are they going to knock on Mr. Tom Brady's door? All that and more coming up right here with Sam. On the phone line right now, we have Wonder Kid Sam Ouhaj breaking down the AFC West, the predictions for his mock draft. Sam, this has been a very interesting combine so far. Before we get into the AFC West, though, has this changed your thoughts on anything else about some of these players?
Yes, it definitely has. The combine, like I said last week, is my favorite time of year because you just see all these hardworking college kids, and they're trying to make a name for themselves, and it really changes a lot of people's opinions. I mean, think about it. Last week we were talking about the Dolphins possibly drafting A.J. Epinesa with the 18th pick, but I don't think that's a possibility anymore. He had a terrible combine. He had a very bad combine, and I get it that it's a combine and all of that, but that just really changes a lot of scouts' perspectives. So it has changed my mind a lot about who I think is going to get drafted, and I actually, as I'm working on my mock draft, my 5.0 currently right now, I have a lot of picks changing because I really do think there's just about the athletic talent that we've been seeing so far and all the abilities. Like Isaiah Simmons, like he's going to go top 3 now. I think the Lions are going to take him now at number 3. I had Derek Brown last week going to the Lions, but I mean, he ran a 4.39 and he could play almost any position on the defense. So that's what the combine can do to you.
Yeah, the combine has been an interesting it's been interesting this year because a lot of people either are really in or some people don't care at all. It's kind of in that weird spot. The XFL has been doing their deal. Let's get into the AFC West, though. The Chargers, a year ago, or I should say 2 years ago now, were competing for the AFC West. This year they have the 6th overall pick. What do we expect from the Chargers?
I expect them to take Justin Herbert. The quarterback, obviously, Phillip Rivers isn't returning this year. They've already announced that they're going to part ways. And I don't really think Tyrod Taylor is the answer in Los Angeles. So why not take the chance on Justin Herbert? Personally, I think he's going to be the second or best quarterback in the entire draft class this season upcoming. I think he's going to be really good. He has all the talent to be great. I mean, he was a Senior Bowl MVP for a reason. I really like the fit for the Chargers, too, with getting their franchise quarterback of the future, and Justin Herbert. He's very underrated and very slept on. I mean, if you ask me personally, I think he would have had a lot better success if he came out last year, but he's still very talented, and he's still really good, and I think it's a perfect matchup.
I really like Herbert on the West Coast, too, because he has that Oregon-like background. He is a West Coast guy. A lot of people have seen him play in the Pac-12 games, so I think him playing on the West Coast just adds a little bit more flavor to it. Does that make sense?
No, exactly, and that's why also too I think he's a perfect fit. That's why, like, when Josh Allen was drafted to the Bills, they're like he's going to be fine because he played in Wyoming and it's freezing there, and in Buffalo it's obviously freezing. So it's those are the sort of things that are they're intangibles really. You can't teach that sort of thing, and it's just that's how it really goes. There's certain things that some people have, like. A lot of people want Tua to go to a hot weather team because they don't know how well he's going to do if he goes to a cold weather team, and maybe the Washington Redskins, because that's been a rumor going around as of late, that they might move on from Dwayne Haskins and take Tua instead with the 2nd overall pick. So it's all about that. The scouts know a lot more than we do, obviously, but we could start to put pieces together, and that's how you can really tell who's going to be good at respective teams. Like, you got to think about it too, like this. Some players, when they go to a different team after like they had an unimpressive couple of seasons, they always seem to perform better wherever they go. That suits their benefit where they were in college. So location does play a big factor in how well someone's going to perform.
Also, the Chargers have a very interesting team set up, too. They were the favorite, I think, to get Tom Brady. They've got a pretty good offensive line. Their wide receiver core looks really good. I really like Joey Bosa. So they have a lot of pieces already set up. You go get a guy like Justin Herbert, a rookie quarterback on a rookie scale contract, you might be able to put some pieces around him. All of a sudden, that is a contender in the AFC. They do, however, play in the hardest division, in my opinion, in professional football with the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs.
I would definitely agree with you that it's the hardest division to play in for sure, and it's going to probably give Justin Herbert a couple of some fits this season if he is selected by the Chargers. I mean, to play the Chiefs twice a year, the Raiders twice a year, and Denver Broncos twice a year that's something. And like, it's not always the greatest thing to be thrown into when you're a rookie quarterback, but I think Herbert has the talent and the skills to benefit and thrive in this sort of challenge and be great and be very well for the Chargers. And even if, say, the Chargers go out and they sign Tom Brady, they land him somehow, it would actually be really beneficial for Justin Herbert to learn 1 or 2 years underneath the GOAT in Tom Brady and develop. I feel like that's similar to how Aaron Rodgers was with Brett Favre, where he learned under him for a couple of years, and then he took over, and then obviously we know how great Aaron Rodgers is. So
we'll get into Brady at the end of the podcast because I do want to do an update. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. But let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. This is the first time Vegas has a team. This is the first draft the Raiders will have in the city of Las Vegas. I know there's a lot of excitement going around that team, but what can we expect out of them in this first round? Are they going to move off Derek Carr would be the big question looming over the franchise.
I think that they're going to keep Carr, but I know that there's been rumors with him going to the Bears, getting traded to a team that was interested in him, because I was actually thinking about this the other day, to be quite honest with you. I don't know why, just the thought came into my head, but Derek Carr was primed to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL after the Raiders season before he broke his leg, and when they had that incredible 12-4 season. And everyone thought they were going to be the next up-and-coming team, the next hottest team with Jack Del Rio and all of them. And then obviously he broke his leg, and they haven't been the same since. So it's really a tough decision for me to say, because I think Derek Carr is good. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback in the world, but I think he's good. So I don't appreciate a lot of the slander that he gets for being the quarterback. Obviously, it's the Raiders, and you know how the Raiders fans get with their quarterbacks. So I get that, but I mean, they could possibly move on. I think that's probably the best decision, that they move on from him and they take someone like Jordan Love to build their franchise around, or maybe use their extra first-round pick to move up in the draft and overtake the Chargers and take Justin Herbert, or they do something insane, the Raiders. You never know. Mike Mayock and John Gruden love Alabama players. So, I mean, we could possibly see I'm just calling this now. I don't know how 100% this is going to be. It hasn't really been talked about. But maybe we could see the Raiders trade with the Lions and overjump the Dolphins and take Tua, because they're absolutely fascinated with Tua, John Gruden and Mike Mayock. And then Tua is the franchise quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders, which would be a very interesting thing to see. So we could go with that. But I don't know. I think they should keep Derek Carr. I mean, they have 2 first-round picks this year. I think they should bring in a wide receiver, obviously, to help them out. Because,
at 12, though? That's my question. At 12, do you get a receiver? I know this is a really deep wide receiver class, and there's a lot of really good talent, but at 12, I think that's a little premature, don't you?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think that they could really benefit if they take someone like Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb with the 12th overall pick. I feel like that would be the type of wide receiver who would thrive in Las Vegas and be a superstar. I mean, it is a very loaded class. I mean, you're going to get a first-round talent in the 3rd round this year. That's how great the wide receiver class is this year. So, I mean, it could go both ways, but I can't really see a position that they would draft over. Maybe Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. He had a great combine. Obviously, his knee injury came back positive. He's measured very well. So there is that. So, and I think he's going to be better than Derek Brown, who's obviously the number 1 D tackle in the draft this year. So I don't know. The Raiders have a lot of fun to play with at the 12th and the 19th picks.
What do we expect out of the Broncos? A team that's still trying to figure out the quarterback position, but they were good enough this year to slide back in the draft. And I know a lot of fans don't like to see their teams lose, but this is one of the years where I kind of wish Denver would have maybe sunk a couple games at the end of the season, because now they'd pick 15th instead of, say, in the top 10. Look, this is a good quarterback draft, and we all agree, but getting a top 10 quarterback versus a quarterback at 15, I think, is a little bit different. How do you feel, Sam?
I don't think they need a quarterback. I was actually very impressed by Drew Lock and how well he played this season and what he came into, obviously, after the whole Brandon Allen and Joe Flacco fiasco and how they didn't want to start him at first and they weren't sure about him. But, I mean, he proved he was great, Drew Lock at Missouri, and he fell to the third round, which was a huge win for John Elway and the Broncos because ever since Peyton Manning retired, they haven't had a quarterback, and they got fleeced by Brock Osweiler. Actually, the Texans got fleeced by Brock Osweiler, excuse me for that. But, I mean, they just haven't had a consistent quarterback who's been great. I mean, can you name the last good quarterback that the Denver Broncos had? I mean,
Peyton Manning.
Keenum went there. That's the last good one besides Peyton Manning. So, I mean, they haven't had a great quarterback, and I actually really like Drew Lock a lot. In my mock draft, I have the Broncos taking a wide receiver in the likes of Henry Ruggs III. I mean, he had a great combine. I was a little disappointed he didn't break the record. I mean, the media hyped it up, but then again, it's the media, so they're going to just try to sell anything possible. So there is that. But, I mean, I feel like they need another wide receiver to give Drew Lock and pair him with. Obviously, Cortland Sutton has proved to be a very great wide receiver in the NFL. He's probably the top 15 receiver right now in his second year. That you got to think about it too. The draft class, the wide receiver classes lately have been pretty solid with terms of talent and how well some of these players have played and adjusted to. But that's, like I've always said, the easiest positions to play in the NFL are running back and wide receiver. It doesn't matter. You can just get slotted in, and as long as you do something, you're going to be great.
Let's talk about – yeah, I know. I agree with you. Let's talk about a position that's kind of harder to play, though. It's offensive line. The Broncos had a subpar running game this year. Do we expect them to maybe, if not get a wide receiver, get a guy in the trenches?
It's possible, but I feel that this year – this is what I really think. I feel like the draft this year, the top 10 picks is mainly going to be quarterbacks and offensive tackles because a lot of the teams that need offensive tackles are picking in the top 10 for a reason. And the most important position you can build in the NFL is your offensive line. That's literally the base foundation you should make your franchise off of, personally. I feel like the offensive line controls everything. It controls how well your quarterback's going to play, how comfortable he's going to feel. It controls your running game. And I feel like a lot of teams are definitely going to need to pick out the best offensive tackles to begin with. I mean, maybe the Broncos go and they take Josh Jones out of Houston, the offensive tackle. I mean, he's pretty decent, but I don't know if he's worth the 15th pick when there's so much better talent on the board.
All right, let's move on to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have the last pick in the first round. This is a team coming off of a championship, Sam, and we know it's hard to get to the top of the mountain. It's even harder to stay there. Is there a player that you're looking at right now for the Kansas City Chiefs that you could say, oh, they need to go get this guy who can have an immediate impact on this franchise and continue to propel them in the correct direction?
Yes, I do, actually. And at first, before I was watching the Super Bowl when I was writing my draft, I had the Chiefs taking J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State as a running back. I feel like they'd need a featured back. You got to think about it, right? If they had Kareem Hunt this year, and obviously if he didn't do those terrible things that he did, if they had Kareem Hunt, they would have been filthy. I mean, they were filthy this year. They're the Super Bowl champs. But they would have even been more unfair than what they are currently. They would just have so much speed and so much talent with Patrick Mahomes that it would be unfair to stop them on offense. They'd probably score like 45 points a game if they had someone like Kareem Hunt. But Damian Williams lit it up in the playoffs this year, so I think that it makes the front office of the Chiefs really consider whether or not they want to draft a running back. Maybe they could find someone in the later rounds as a possibility, but I actually have the Chiefs taking Kenneth Murray, the linebacker out of Oklahoma.
Wow.
He's had a great combine. He's had a great combine, and I feel that Kenneth Murray, I mean, he could possibly go higher, but I feel like the Chiefs struggled a little bit at the linebacker position. I mean, a lot of their linebackers are all right. They're nothing spectacular. So, I mean, the best thing you could do is build your defense in a Super Bowl run, but they have the greatest offense in the NFL and the greatest offense I've seen in a very long time. So, I mean,
I agree with you. I thought that Kenneth Murray might go higher, though. That is my only question, because I said that I thought Kenneth Murray would be a guy that the Ravens would be looking at, too. And he had an incredible combine, and now he might propel himself a little bit higher than some of the other linebackers in that class. That's the only thing, but I do think linebacker and that kind of outside backer position for the Chiefs is what they would be looking for.
And I would definitely have to agree with you. I feel like they definitely need a linebacker. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, they don't need to worry about safety. Their cornerbacks are actually very decent, and Morris Claiborne. They have a great team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think personally that they'll go to the Super Bowl again this year. I don't think there's anyone in the AFC that can really compete with them except for maybe the Ravens. If they get a little bit better, I mean, they were a great team this year, but they just can't lose in the first round.
How premature is it to say that this is the next great football dynasty?
I don't think it's premature at all. I think that the Chiefs are going to be a dynasty. I really do. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest player in the NFL right now and the greatest quarterback in the NFL, and it's not even anywhere close to him. I think that he has what it takes under Andy Reid, and he has all the offensive weapons to thrive and be successful. I mean, you got to think about it. They're not really losing any free agents this year, the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's the biggest killer of many dynasties is when you lose your key free agents and your key players because they want to get paid big. Chris Jones is obviously a big free agent for them, but now they're franchise tagging him, so they're going to keep one of the best D tackles in the NFL. It's really hard for me to see how the Chiefs would find a way to lose and not make it to the Super Bowl this year because they're just a great team, and they went out after last season when they lost in the championship series to Tom Brady, and they went out and they hired Steve Spagnuolo to be their defensive coordinator, and their defense got a lot better. That's how you run an organization is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Who do you think is going to win the first round in the AFC West? What team do you think is going to have a great draft?
I don't know. That's hard.
I think it's the Raiders. I honestly do.
I think so too.
Because they have everything in place right now. I really like what Gruden has done, kind of grooming players. Granted, the Antonio Brown situation is always going to be a little bit of a cloud over his legacy in Oakland. But he's built a pretty good roster right now, even getting rid of Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper. So I like the Raiders' chances in this draft.
I think this is I definitely do too. And a side note with the Raiders, I think the Raiders won the trade when they traded away Khalil Mack, to be quite honest with you. I really think that they won the trade. I mean, they're picking again. They have an extra first-round pick again this year, another second-round pick. Khalil Mack has been great in Chicago, but think about it like this. They saved a ton of cap space, and they got more picks who they could draft, and they've got someone like Max Crosby in the fourth round who had a pretty great rookie season at defensive end. So, I mean, and honestly, has Khalil Mack done enough to be considered that the Raiders lost that trade?
Wow, that's a pretty hot take, Sam. I like it. Neither team has won anything, though, and that's really, I think, the ultimate benchmark.
The big factor, yeah.
All right, let's talk about Tom Brady real quick before I let you go. Brady's at the Syracuse game with Julian Edelman. I still think that he goes back to Boston, but there's been a lot more grumbling now. How do you feel?
I would like to see Tom. I would love to see Tom Brady go to a different team and just have it be the talking point of the season and how well he's going to play. And see, I would like to see if he. I don't think Tom Brady is a system quarterback at all, and he's the GOAT for a reason. But a lot of people have always said that he's a system quarterback in New England. So I feel like it'd be very interesting to go see how well he performs at another team, and whether or not these last 20 years of him playing in New England were just something of a product of the system. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't think he's a product of the system, but I know a lot of people say that they think that he kind of is a little bit. But I'd love to see him go to the Raiders possibly, or the Chargers, and go to a West Coast team and see what he could do with that. I think if he goes to either of those teams, he could definitely give the Chiefs a run for their money in terms of winning the division. I think if you have Tom Brady, just how well he plays and what he brings to the team in terms of championship mentality, how he is on and off the field, I feel like it would just give a lot of players a boost around that they're playing with the greatest quarterback and one of the greatest NFL players of all time.
All right, next week we're breaking down Sam's favorite division in football, the NFC East. Sam, you ready for it?
Oh, I'm very ready for it. I absolutely love the NFC East. Is going to be a great discussion.
All right. Talk to you next week, Sam. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. You can check out all of our content on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube, along with a bunch of other really cool podcasting apps. If you haven't checked out our baseball content, that comes out Mondays and Fridays. Already a bunch of really cool stuff out there for you, including breaking down the AL East. We did that earlier this week, and we're doing the AL Central on Friday, so you want to check that out. And then, of course, as always, we do Film Fridays on Fridays and Television Tuesdays. I'll let you guess what day we do that on. We get that all done this week, so check out all of our great content. Thank you for listening. Please continue to send it to all of your friends. I will check on you guys tomorrow.